Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So, we are now 75 days into growing these Sweet Passion Cantaloupes and Kajari Melons. Had a little bit of brain fart there. And as you can see, things have not gone according to plan. So, shortly after the last video that I did, probably like 2 days later, suddenly this vine here started dying, and it really bummed me out because this vine feeds what was at the time the biggest one of these Sweet Passion Cantaloupes. So, you know, kind of a bummer, but I also think that in some weird way that maybe, you know, it's still going. So you can see quite a lot of the leaves are dead and dying on it, and we had more than a few little cucumber beetles. I think I was able to snap a couple pictures of them just because I saw them and went, uh-oh, what are those? And then looked them up and went, oh no. So there's a pretty good chance that this is some type of like bacterial wilt that's affecting it. And, you know, to me, that really kind of bums me out because this was the biggest one at the time. And I mean, you know, it's probably about the size of a softball. So decent sized. This one's a little bit bigger than a baseball, so but you can definitely see stuff's dying on it. So not super great. I'm hoping that, you know, maybe it stays kind of strong, because if you look at it, that's still kind of green feeding into it. So I'm hoping that that stays good and might actually finish out. But that's the part of the problem, is that we're 75 days in, which means it's September 1st. Or actually, I mean, it's still August 31st. But, you know, I'm going to be putting this out pretty soon. So not too much longer left. And then first freeze, according to like the Farmer's Almanac and stuff like that, is going to be within the first week of October. So we really need to get these guys all done growing and moving on. Now this plant here, last week, this one started wilting, which is again bumming me out pretty good. So I don't know what's going on exactly that's causing it. My suspicion is, again, bacterial wilt. Now the nice thing is that the Kajari melons have been doing pretty good. In fact, I'd probably say they've been doing extremely good. So this one down here, very flat looking, but, you know, maybe almost a softball width in size. So pretty decent there. We've had quite a few little ones that are kind of growing. That one's a little bit more yellow than I would like, so that one's probably going to go the way of the dodo. So it's probably not going to be surviving. But some of these that we've had for quite a while, I've got them in like a mesh bag, and this was like kind of like for potatoes originally, is what I designed it, or had thoughts for them. And all I did was I took it and I clipped the side of the bag all the way down except for the last little bit. That way it hugs this pretty good. So now this is pretty well supported. We've had a lot of really bad storms, so I wanted to make sure that we had some of them that were definitely well supported to make sure they made it through. Now some of them, like these two, these I just kind of left them free during the last big storm, and they held on fine. So, you know, I'm not overly worried now about really, really bad weather, and the Kajari staying on. They seem to hold on pretty good. And as you can see, this has gone up and over, and it's starting to encroach on the other ones, so I'm just kind of letting it droop down a little bit. So this one here, that one turned into quite the big one too. We've got that one, which is a little bit older one, and this one over here, which has been by far the biggest out of all of them. And then this one, the green, like the dark green, the modeling's starting to go away, so I'm pretty sure this one's going to be reaching, hopefully, ripeness sometime soon. This one here, looking a little yellow, probably gonna die. So that one's probably not going to make it. But, I mean, all in all, this has been quite the adventure with the melons. And if I were to do this again, I would definitely think that, you know, instead of going Sweet Passion, which is like an heirloom tomato, so they do have some resistance to wilt. They don't have a ton of resistance. And, you know, it's an older strain, I guess. I would probably go with like a Minnesota Midget. So being that we're up here in Minnesota, the Minnesota Midget is supposed to be a faster melon. So it would be more along the lines of a Kajari melon in terms of, you know, reaching ripeness. So with these as they stand, I'm expecting these to go about a month longer than these. So with the Kajaris, hopefully reaching maturity soon and will be nice and ripe. Then I'm going to be like, okay, cool, yep, we got about 30 more days, and then these might be all right. But, again, like with this vine, I'm hoping the fruit's still going to wind up being good. It's still plenty firm, so it's plenty solid. It's not squishy or anything, but, you know, really kind of bummed out by the wilt. And it's crazy because it's only affecting kind of like one leg of these. So down here, it's just affecting, I think these, well, this one, and now maybe it's actually affecting more of them now. So in hindsight, probably one of those situations where I was maybe better off cutting it out. But seeing as it's still kind of greenish up here, I don't want to cut it out just to see if maybe this will still be good. So if anyone's had any kind of like a wilt happen to their melons and stuff like that, and they said, hey, you know what, I'm going to leave it on there, was the fruit still good? Drop it in the comments, that way I have an idea. Because I'm really kind of curious to see, you know, is that still going to be a good piece of fruit, or somehow is the rest of the plant wilting going to mean it's going to be kind of funky? But one thing's for sure, I mean, we definitely had quite a few. So you can see that one down there, this one here, that one there. No more really up here. And I think we've had a few kind of like smaller ones drop off. Then there's another one right here that's doing pretty good. I think that one's actually on this other plant on the other vine. So it'll be interesting to see how that winds up going. But again, for two plants, for one to have, you know, 3 really good ones, one to have one kind of meh one. But, you know, that's why you kind of pick and choose. So really I could have trimmed this down to just one plant per grow bag. But I think so far so good, because we've actually got one extra melon going on that one. So there's a chance we might actually get another one. Same thing with this one. So with this one, I'm not sure what goes where exactly anymore, but I'm pretty sure that these two guys over here are probably on the weaker plant that was over here. The strong plant over here, that's the one that seemed like it got sick. So kind of a bummer with what's happening with it, but you know, hopefully we'll still have something turn out. Now the Kajaris, whole different story. So these did really pretty well, I think so. So you can kind of see, you've got your 3 here, you got your 2 here, that one's probably going to fall off. We've got that one that's over there. So this side's doing pretty good, even though like this vine here was originally struggling in the beginning. But I'm also not 100% sure that this vine carried any actual fruit and didn't just wind up making a mess of things inside of here, and that all this fruit is actually on that one vine. And then the Kajaris on this side, these I would say aren't as productive as say that one vine on this side, but these two definitely have both grown some melons. So between that one and that one and that one, those are all fairly decent sized melons. And then there's a little baby one right over there. Well, not baby, that's like the size of like 2 golf balls. And then also, with it being, you know, almost the 1st of September, so, I mean, I think today's the 31st of August, so it's close enough. You can kind of see, shade-wise, has really changed. So the sun is no longer straight vertical, it's moved over to the south. So now the black walnut tree is encroaching, which, you know, I was kind of thinking that the Kajaris were going to be done by now, but, you know, I think we're getting close enough that hopefully these are going to be good and done, and I don't have to worry about, you know, wait until October for them. Especially this one. Man, I'm looking forward to this one being done, because I think that's my best shot of trying a Kajari melon. These other ones, you can still see, have quite a good bit of the, like, the dark green on them. This one here, like its other friend, this one's losing a little bit of the green as well. So hopefully the more that goes away and then starts to shift to that orange, you know, that shows it's going to be ripe. So fingers crossed, you know, sometime soon these guys will be ready. And we're going to try the Kajari melons. And then I'm sure these guys will be, you know, a few weeks in tow, but, you know, that few weeks can start getting pretty cold pretty quick. Like, actually for Labor Day, they're calling for lows at night starting to break back into the 40s. So this is going to get really interesting really quick as far as how the melons do. So speaking of the weather, we've had some really crazy storms so far this year, and it's one of those situations where, you know, if you've got really high winds, they're calling for risk of hail and stuff like that. I've been freaking clean out a little bit about this, just because out here, I mean, this is very little protection on this trellis, but everything's done really, really well. The funny thing was that I was out here during when we're supposed to be having like possible 60-mile-an-hour winds. I think we were getting like 15 to like 20-mile-an-hour winds on the gauge, but it was interesting how much this would flex and shift over as it would blow through. So having all this foliage on here definitely causes it to catch and push over. It doesn't just blow right through like I was kind of hoping it would. So I was really impressed by how well it kind of shifted and, you know, is still up. Now, it would be interesting to see if you had, say, step out of the wind a little bit, a more like solid setup. If that more solid setup would have caused more issues because of, you know, nothing's flexing, nothing's moving except for the plants. So the trellis itself isn't giving, and that causes the plants to have to bear all the brunt of all the wind. And then the grow bags have been doing really well as well. So I think they've been doing a pretty good job of metering water. So right now, if I stick my finger in all the way, it's just a little bit damp down there. So I'll give this probably another day. So I think tomorrow we'll probably wind up watering again. And when I've been watering it from the hose, I've just been giving it to a count of about 20 as I'm spraying into it. So I'll just sit there and spray to about a count of 20 and then move to the next one. Spray to about a count of 20, move to the next one. And then that's been pretty simple. Seems to have worked pretty well. I think, given the nature of melons and not wanting to be, you know, really super duper wet down there, that the grow bags have helped to kind of like filter that out. Same thing with like it being more or less parked on the ground, which is weird because I mean it kind of lets the grass kind of grow in around it and in between it, which is super strange. But I do think that if it's sitting on the ground, allows it to kind of wick the water down and out maybe a little bit faster, and if it needs to, it can also pull water up. So 75 days in, definitely had some lessons learned, definitely kind of contemplating things to do next year, but all in all, pretty happy. So definitely glad to be seeing melons. So if you're thinking about doing it, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. You know, hopefully you want to get in a little bit more of these than sad yellow ones like that one. And also, hopefully you can pick like a good cultivar of like cantaloupe, the one that's a little bit more, say, wilt resistant. But all in all, I'm pretty happy. So 75 days in, not too bad. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time. Ooh, I'm hoping it's gonna be delicious.